Okay, so I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, doctor, it's visible on my side.
Okay. So we want to look at research design today, and this is mostly reflected in our chapter 3 methodology chapter, but of course we must have it in the back of our minds right from the beginning what it is we're going to look at. And of course, considering the different research approaches, research design can be seen in three perspectives: on qualitative research, quantitative, and then mixed methods. So what, first of all, is research design? So this we must first of all understand it, because whether your research is qualitative, quantitative, or mixed methods, we must understand what it is. So it is the skeleton of your research, and it is the heart of the research, because it's what tells your reader, whoever is looking at your research, your approach. That's one. It tells your reader how you essentially decided to tackle your research problem, how you intend to answer your research question. And when one looks at your chapter 3, it should be very clear what your scientific method is. It's not enough to say, this is my research method, define it and leave it at that. No, it's more than that. You state how you intend to use that research method to go through each step to answer your research question or research questions. Very, very specific. So if, let us say, I have made a decision, I'm going to use case study research method. Number one, I describe what the case study research method is. And then I explain why it is the best method to answer my research question. If it is a question of studying a phenomena in its natural environment, I state what that phenomena is, and then what I intend to study about that phenomena. What are the things that I'm looking at? What are the things that I'm looking for? What specific themes should I be looking for? What specific things should I be looking for? Then I state or how I'm going to study them. What is my unit of analysis? What is my unit of study, then my unit of analysis? What exactly am I going to be studying? Will it be individuals who are using a particular process, a particular artifact? Who are those individuals? And why are they so significant? And what do I expect to study from them? What do I intend to observe from these individuals? If it is a particular unit, if it's a particular artifact I'm going to study within a particular context, case study, what exactly am I studying? What am I looking for? And what do those answers lead? How will those answers lead to my answering my question? And so on and so forth. So in the case study method, you specifically state, if it is design science that I'm going to use as my methodology, okay, in the first stage of design, what exactly am I looking for? What is it that I'm looking for? And when I'm looking for it, how am I going to do it? Will I do it through literature review? Will I observe in the case study area? And when I'm observing, what exactly am I looking for? And at the end of it, what do I expect to be my end result at stage 1? Stage 2 of the design process. What is my next? What am I looking for, and how am I looking for it? Is it from literature review? Is it from studying of the domain from literature review? From that, what do I expect? What am I expecting to find, and how will it contribute to the overall? And so on and so forth. So you're being very, very specific. Here, just to explain to you, sorry a minute, I'm going to share with you what would have been, for me, that would have been my chapter 4. Just share with you and you have a look. Of course, this was done at PhD level, please, but I just to give you an idea what that chapter should look like. So give me a minute, I look for that content. Okay, let me just share with you a table which was describing the two methods that I used, two research methods. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this one was describing the two research methods that I used, ethnography and ADR, or action design research. So here I described action design research has, I think, 4 stages, if I'm not mistaken. So the first stage is the problem formulation stage of the design process. So in that stage, I talked about the ADR activity and methods. So I said in this stage, I'm going to apply theory from the domains, from theory, application of theory to domain. So here I said I was going to look at rural healthcare access problem is viewed as an opportunity or first hunch. Yeah. If anyone looks at design science, there's what we call the first hunch, where the first ideas are created. Then I say I'm going to conceptualize the problem by applying the situation problem to a class of problems. Then I said I'm going to propose mHealth artifact is informed by the livelihood framework. There I'm applying my theoretical framework. Then I'm going to say the initial meetings and discussions with stakeholders. That is, I mentioned who those are, healthcare facilities, and so on and so forth. So of course, this was the final thesis. So this I'm talking in past tense. In the initial one, you can simply say, in this problem formulation state, I'm going to look at I'm going to look from literature review. I'm going to have my first contact with the case study area and have my first discussion. It can be that plain. Then here I talk about so here I'm talking about ADR, action design science research. So here I said in ethnography methods, what I did, I had community. I'm going to say I'm going to have community discussions, observations, and so on and so forth. If here it is case study, you would be saying, in my case study, I'll have interviews. I'm going to observe. I'm going to carry out observation, maybe looking at documentation, and maybe observe activities as people work. So here you can state that. Then here I talked about Stoff method. So this is another theoretical framework that I used, depending on what you've used. Then at the end here, I said, what would be the output? So here it's the initial idea of the mHealth application, and so on and so forth. Then I come to the build and intervention stage. So here I said the build intervention, if I used ADR or ethnography. So I said here I'm going to use ethnography. And then here I say I had participant observations and so on and so forth. Then here I said, again, in ethnography, I talked about this. Then I said I used survey questionnaires under Stoff method, and then what my output was. Then in reflection and learning, I said here I used Stoff, one of my theoretical frameworks. And here I said I looked for specifications of critical design issues. and then what my output was. Formalization. Here I said I outline and describe findings, articulate the findings, share and communicate. Then I said what my final output was. Okay? So here you see, in this, I am clearly stating, this is just my chapter 4. Okay? I'm clearly stating in my chapter 4, this would be your chapter 3. What in it, that is how your chapter, this is why your chapter 3 becomes so important. You're showing the scientific method that you have applied. Okay? Do you have any questions so far? Queries?
Doctor, no.
Okay. Let me continue. Okay, so first it is the research design. Again, like we said, it is to be even more specific. It is that one with the skeleton of the research project, and it is the decisions you're making on how you're going to carry out your inquiry. How you're going to carry out your inquiry or research study. So you are making a deliberate anticipation of where the direction where your research is going. Now, specifically on qualitative methods, most of these things we've talked about, but it is to understand exactly the direction of your research, where it is going to head to. We know that qualitative research methods is not about counting, it is about narration, giving a total picture. A total picture of what it is, of the phenomena that you're studying. Now, the best device for collecting an analysis is your human brain. Of course, even in quantitative, but here it is very much what you've observed, how you have understood it, and you're giving feedback. Now, the other thing to understand is that qualitative research is local. Local meaning you're observing a certain phenomena, a certain unit in its natural context. Most of the findings are found using observation, and they depend a lot on understanding something within its context. Yeah. The observations are typically at a very small scale. You may be observing an individual or a group of people, but at a very small scale. So it's not about quantity, it's about quality and depth of understanding. And it is all about exploration. You're going out to discover. Now, the minute, if you're doing your research, and I remember I was talking to someone who was attempting to do a research, and they were actually talking about the initial idea. And they kept saying, most people don't understand this is the cause of this thing. And I said, by the time you're saying that, then what are you going out to explore? You really must have an unbiased mind. You must as a researcher, if you're going qualitative, you must unlearn. But even in quantitative, it's also still the same, because even as much as you have a hypothesis, you're saying, I'm going in there to discover whether it is true or not true. You have to be as unbiased as possible. So the qualitative research provides ideographic as opposed to nomothetic. You're not looking for causal relationships. You're going out to look for ideas, new thoughts. So qualitative research is inductive. Most of these things we know. It is reflective in nature. Reflective, you're going to study and then reflect and understand. and then bring out the explanation. It is designed to be flexible. What do we mean it is designed to be flexible? By the time we're saying what is designed to be flexible, you're going out to discover, and what you discover will be your new idea. The old idea will be discarded, and then you bring in your new idea. Now, the researcher must be constantly asking themselves a question. Am I accurately depicting the social world given the ways I'm collecting and analyzing data? It is almost as if you're constantly examining your conscious. At any point, am I biased? At any point, am I bringing my thoughts or the thoughts of the context of the participants, not mine? At qualitative research at its best is most rigorous because you're constantly asking yourself if any of your biases are interfering with your findings. Yeah. I think in one of the lectures I gave you an example, one of those moments where in my research, when a community member asked for bicycles, and then one of my colleagues said, but this man, he has a motorcycle and is asking for a bicycle. And then I found myself agreeing with her. Then later on I said, Sheba, you must stop. This is not about your opinion. So if they're asking for bicycles, that's their reality, not yours. So it's almost like a constant reminder that you're not bringing your thoughts and feelings into the research process. So when should we use qualitative methods? When the variables cannot be quantified. The feelings and thoughts of people cannot be quantified. When there is a need to understand a variable in its natural setting. So the variable could be the feelings and thoughts of participants towards a particular phenomena. And these vary. One's experience is this, another's experience is another, and another's experience. And it's your job to get all of them and present the picture, provide the full picture. When variables are being studied in their real time, when we're studying intimate details, the entire picture, when we're seeking to understand, when the objective is to understand. Yeah. And when we're trying to understand somebody's position, our opinion doesn't matter. We're bringing out the other person's reality. What skills do we need? So we must have requisite knowledge and skills about methodology, the methodology that we're going to use. Yeah. So the methods you're going to use, the research methodology you're going to use, what are the steps to be followed? How is it supposed to be approached? You must be familiar with your own biases. Yeah? You must be familiar with your own biases as an individual, as a researcher. And the reason for understanding your biases is that you need to put, your biases should not interfere. Your assumptions, you must put those, we all have assumptions, but the point is to understand them and to make sure that they do not interfere with your findings. You must be empathetic, yeah? Empathetic means to understand the other person's position and let your biases not interfere. Of course, intelligence comes in. Energetic, because one of the things you understand along the way is how boring collecting data can be. So it is always to bring back that energy even when you're tired. You should be interested in listening. One of the tricks here I can give you, because along the way we get distracted, is record. But first of all, seek consent from your participants if you can record. If you can record what is happening. You must be open to embracing multiple realities. Remember again what I said earlier, you're painting a picture. So painting that picture means you're getting everybody's reality. You're not getting the most common reality, but everyone's reality. And when I say everyone, it means those whom you have sampled. Even in qualitative research, we have sampling, but not at the same scale as quantitative. You must be prepared to produce detailed, comprehensive, and times lengthy reports. Okay? So the role of the researcher in qualitative, you must be in physical proximity with researcher participants. Physical. Emotionally, you must divorce yourself. Yes, you can be empathetic, understand, but you must also remove yourself. Demonstrate theoretical sensitivity. Okay? So by theoretical sensitivity, I remember in one of the lectures I talked about a theoretical framework. So the theoretical framework is what guides you on what you need to look for when you go into the context. You're not looking for everything, but being specific on what you're looking for. Be insightful. Perceive holistic situations. Be sensitive to personal biases. Be reflective in all your actions. So before collecting your data, you must determine what you want to accomplish. Tight versus loose design. Ask how much time do you have? What resources do you have available? What is the purpose of research? And in what am I really interested in? More structure can prevent waste. If you already know about the context, it would be wasteful to go and explore. So the whole point of qualitative research is that we're seeking to explore. So that is where the biases must be set aside. If you have a targeted topic, you can reduce data of the collection at the collection stage. Loose produces more data and more surprise discoveries can be made. The more open you are, the more discoveries you make. Choose your unit of analysis. What or who am I going to observe? What or who am I going to observe? Is it individuals? Is it groups of people? What and who am I going to observe? Qualitative research quickly exhausts resources and time. You really need time. Limit the amount of data being collected. It's not the size that matters, it's what you do with the data. Be very clear about the research focus. Write down your foggy ideas and then get more specific. Whatever thought you have, write it down. As you write it down and you're observing more, the ideas become more specific. And those become the themes that you discover. Sampling. Now, sometimes we may assume sampling is only done with quantitative research, but even with qualitative research, remember we said, think about what is your unit of analysis? What is your unit of observation? If I go into a case study, let us say Uganda Matters University, I'm going to research about e-learning. So if I go to research about e-learning, am I going to observe administrative staff? For example, a faculty administrator in a university. Will an administrative staff be part and parcel of that observation? I'm asking a question to the class. If I'm doing research on e-learning in a university or even in a school, will the administrative staff be part of my units of analysis or units of observation?
Doctor, I think they will not be part.
Exactly, they are not part of it. So they are not part of the sampling, your sampled group. Okay, so probably say who uses the e-learning? Academic staff and the students. Who else? Then you ask who else, but those would be your units of observation and units of analysis. Record nothing that is not in your sampling parameter. So here we look at quantitative sampling versus qualitative. So quantitative, we select elements representative of a targeted population, and we can generalize that. We can say that whatever we discover from this sample group, because it is representative of our target population, it can be generalized. Now, with qualitative sampling, we select elements representative of our research focus. Yeah, so like I said, if I was doing e-learning, I would be focused on those who use e-learning, those from whom I'll get information. The case study area may be representative of other case study areas, but the population may not be representative of all e-learning users. So in sampling, make sure that the choices narrow or limit research, the research focus, and the activities that we need to observe. Seek exposure to topic-related information. Focus on information directly useful to the research. Sampling decisions are made throughout data collection. So you will find some sampling, and we may look at this when we look at quantitative research design. We may see sampling techniques referred to as snowball sampling or purposive sampling. So purposive is, what is my purpose? What is the purpose? What is the information I need to select? So I gave you the example of e-learning. The faculty administrator may not have any purpose in e-learning, but the academic staff does. Snowballing is when I seek out this individual, and this individual leads me to another and another. It's almost like a chain. When I don't know, I'm going into a context, I don't know who has the information, but this individual will lead me to another person who will lead me to another. So take an example. If you're doing research, let's say on homosexuality in Uganda, you may not immediately know that I'm going to find a homosexual community in this context. But maybe if I start with, let's say, individuals who can lead me to the homosexual community in Uganda, and maybe I start with someone in the movie industry, because it's very low-key, this person will say, you talk to this person. Normally they are here. Then you go there, then that is snowballing. It's leading you from one thing to the next. So that data itself, the text is generally collected from or in the form of field notes, interviews which are recorded and then transcribed. So if you're going to do interviews, please record. After you record, you transcribe. You write out, you type out what has been said, and verbatim. Do you understand what we mean by verbatim?
Yes, doctor. Writing them the way they are.
Yes, and I'm going to show you a sample later on when you carry out analysis. I'm going to show you a sample of what it looks like. Give me a minute. Why it is so important. This, please be very attentive to something like this. Okay, let me share. Okay. Do you see this quote? Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, doctor, it's visible.
Okay. So you see the conversation. Well, I was telling them that there is an information gap about the range of services that are supposed to be offered at this place. So I was telling him. Then I put in quotes VHT because so that the reader understands. Of course, the person who said it didn't say VHT, but for me, I was trying to be specific that it is us, and I'm saying health workers, first to tell them, then VHTs. It is then VHTs to tell the wider community because I cannot move village by village telling them what we are doing. I can display the services at the facility, but many people are not literate. So you see, I was reporting VAP, and the reason why I could do that is because I recorded the conversation. Now, this one of the most important things about doing this, it gives authenticity to your work. Yeah, that you are not just creating things. This was something actually said by someone. And you're giving the full picture, not according to Sheba, but according to the participant. It gives authenticity, it gives validity to your research. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, let's move on.
Doc,
Yes, please.
about recording, before you record, are these participants meant to know that you're recording them or
Yes,
no?
please. You must let them know. That is part of the ethics of research.
Okay.
Yeah, but of course, you must also let them know about the privacy which they are entitled to. That no one's name, identity will be revealed.
Okay. Then I understand.
I can even show
Because
you.
I was thinking there are sometimes people who do not want to be recorded.
Yes, yes. So I'll just show you one of the ways you actually protect. If I have a table. Aha. Do you see here how I encoded my participants in this table? So I said HF1, unit of observation. This is in Nkozi Hospital Health Center. Then I say who my respondents were: Nkozi Hospital Management Team, Nkozi Hospital Surgeon, Nkozi Hospital so on and so forth. So here I say one of the participants in HF1, I would call it that. So you can't know who it is that you're talking about, even you yourself. So they say one of the participants in HF2 said this. Then if I say VHT in India, this is why group discussion. So one of the participants in VHT in India group said this. VHT in cause it so on and so forth. SP, this would be a particular individual stakeholder. This is a key informant, one key informant, two, so on and so forth. So in my when I'm reporting back, these are the codes I would use. Does that make sense?
Yes, doctor, it does.
So again, this is the kind of data we would have. So you'd have the field notes, anything you thought about, interviews which are recorded, focus group discussions, also these can be recorded. So whatever is recorded, you transcribe. Then copies of documents, if you have photographs, videos, you can include them, narrative description, diaries, whatever it is, so that you have the total picture. So with collective qualitative data, interviews, you can have structured or semi-structured. You can also have unstructured, which can generate a lot of data. So depending on what it is you want, structured and semi-structured, this is where you already know something of what you're looking for. But if you don't, then you can have unstructured interview guides. Then you have data collected in natural field settings where you observe. So you can observe covert or overt. Covert is, of course, in secret. Overt is like if you're in a workshop, if you're in a group discussion, that kind of thing. You can also have visual sources like videos, photographs. If you have some documentation, the focus of the camera can be selective on specifically on what it is you're trying to observe, not everything. You must have unobtrusive measures. There are certain when it is in groups of people that can be obtrusive, but you can have unobtrusive measures. Let's say if you're observing documents like certain reports, websites and things like that, those are unobtrusive reports. But if it is in a group discussion, of course, that is an obtrusive method, and it can sometimes be preventative in ways that, let's say, someone may be unnatural because they know I'm being observed at this moment, or at this moment I'm being recorded, so they may watch their words and may be careful about what they say. But there are other things which may reveal more, like those reports and so on and so forth. Then you can have research diaries. Yeah. So research diaries are extremely important because they allow the researcher, as they observe, to make certain notes about their experiences as they are in the field. And these ones also can be very important because this is where the ideas develop, be it the vague ones which become more specific. So the ethical checklists in qualitative research. So one of them is, of course, the matter of confidentiality and privacy. So this is where you seek permission. You also inform the participants that their identities will be left, will not be exposed. Then also the question, of course, of biases. Then how can I generalize appropriately? Yeah, how can I generalize appropriately? One of the ways we can generalize is that the case study where I'm doing my observation, let me first relate it to any other context. So for example, if I'm doing research in a university on e-learning, first I want to be very descriptive to say that this university is representative of any other university, let's say in Uganda, or it is representative of private universities or government or something like that. That is one. But still, even as we generalize, especially in qualitative research, we normally say, probably this means this. We don't make a conclusion, something conclusive. We say, probably this could mean this. Yeah? Validity, generating validity in qualitative research. Developing a self-conscious research design. Self-conscious research design, where you're constantly seeking your biases. Two, the subject of generalizing, where you relate your case study area to any other case study area that is similar. If it is a university, how is it relatable to any other? Sampling decisions. Is it purposive? Is it snowballing? How adequate is my sampling decision? Employing triangulation. I remember we talked about triangulation. Do you remember triangulation, what it means? Do you remember what triangulation is?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, that's good. Data generating, you demonstrate prolonged engagement in the field. If it is qualitative research, it is how much depth, how far you've gone. I remember I told you for my research, it took me 2 years in the field, sitting with community members in workshops, in focus group discussions, interviews, observations, and so on and so forth. Demonstrating persistent observation, providing verbatim transcripts. I gave you that demonstration. Demonstrating sampling and data saturation. External validity. So the above was just validity in general. Then external validity is when you relate your case study to other case studies. Yeah? So I'll give you an example. For my case, I was looking at M-Health in a rural healthcare context. Okay? M-Health in a rural healthcare context. So first of all, I gave a description of what a typical rural healthcare context is in terms of poverty, in terms of what healthcare facilities are available, commonly available, what is a typical community member in a rural healthcare context in Uganda. And then I related to the case study which I was studying, giving that description and saying how it resembles a typical healthcare context in a rural area in Uganda. So that is the external validation. So what is the purpose of external validation? The purpose is replication. When a research is being done, remember when I think I told you about a study that was done some years back where it was claimed that homosexuality is a result of DNA. And people published their data, and then researchers replicated the research and found this to be false. Yeah? Found it to be false. So that is the purpose of replication, that your research can be done in any other context and see if the same results will be found in other cases. So, but in generalizing here, they say the qualitative researcher needs to be cautious, moderating the range of generalization, that you don't make your conclusions conclusive. Okay, this is where we normally say probably this means this, probably. You leave that room of doubt. Recognizing your limitations of time periods. I may have discovered this in this period, but this may not be found later on. Meticulous in demonstrating clear linkages between generalization and specific data that you've picked. Honesty and transparency about the findings. Diligent in reporting alternative explanations or constraints of your research. One of the things you will do when you end your research is provide conclusions and recommendations. Now, many times we think recommendations, especially for us who do IT, is to say, oh, for this thing to succeed, this organization should do this. No, that's not recommendations. Recommendations is saying, my research went this far. I recommend for this research to be built on further. This should be, maybe the next research should be focused on this. Maybe the next research should validate this. Those are recommendations, yeah? Designing reliability. data triangulation. Basically, it's about triangulation itself. If we employ triangulation, it should be able to provide reliability of your data, of your findings. The other way is providing transferability with purposive sampling, where we say if again it's purposive sampling, where I say this is representative of this. Dependability through use of audit trails through data. Confirmability with the audit trail. Credibility in use of persistent observation. Now, one of the things I want to talk about with the reliability or the audit trail, when you do your research, whether it is qualitative or quantitative, your raw data must be available. Okay? Your recordings should be available. And many times in some of these universities, they require that you submit also your recordings, your transcripts, your transcribed documents, and so on and so forth, so that somebody really determines that you did go collect this data and you have submitted it as well. So that is it for qualitative research design. Do we have any question? Do we have any question?
Not from me.
Okay. I want to stop here and request, there's a group that didn't demonstrate their first assignment. I request we use the remaining time for them to present, and then we call it an evening. Is that okay?
Doctor.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, one, I request that you can kindly share with us the notes. Then two, I'm inquiring for the group that has finished the assignment, which you recently gave to us. Can we submit via your email?
Yes,
Thank you,
please.
Doctor.
Yes, please. And yes, I'll share these notes after the class.
Thank you,
Yes,
Doctor.
Okay.
Doctor, I have one simple question.
Yes, Pius.
You have talked about qualitative and quantitative.
Yes.
Can I use both? And you talked about the different methods that I used when I use qualitative, and the different methods that I'm supposed to use when I use quantitative. Now, when I use qualitative and quantitative, how will I solve that?
Now we are also going to look at the mixed method research design. So that should be able to guide you on how to use the mixed method side. However, you can't decide to use a research method that is your research, let's say, can be qualitative in nature, and then you employ it more leans towards qualitative, but you employ some quantitative methods for the sake of triangulation, as opposed to mixed method, which is more balanced. Mixed method is balanced, where both quantitative and qualitative hold the same weight. But if one says my research leans more towards qualitative, but employs some quantitative methods for the sake of triangulation.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other question, or can we ask the group with Aggie to present? Aggie, Richard. If there are no more questions, Richard, could your group please present?
I'm just trying to connect the presentation.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, please.
Just a moment. Let me join twice, probably.
Recording in progress.
Hello?
Yes, please.
I'm trying to share my screen. Are you able to see?
It's loading.
We can see your screen, but the Zoom link page opened in the browser. What we're seeing is the browser.
Okelo, do you need help?
I think his network has also a problem because I can't, it's not audible. Seems to be breaking.
Hello, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
Yes. This is our topic of research. I don't know if my network is so good. Oh, if not, we can
Richard, we can't hear you well. Eh? Your network is so bad, especially audio.
I think it's having two devices at once. That is echo.
I think you should mute one. Richard, mute one of the devices.
Just to mute one of the devices that you're connected. I think you joined the class using 2 devices. Just to mute one.
Is it okay now?
Yes, that's better.
Yeah. Okay. Let me try to restore the slides. Now, our topic of study is multitasking with information technology. Why not just relax? We are about 5 members: Nabufu Agnes, Okelo Richard, Naluvega Flavia, and also I've got Daniel, but he's not on this slide. Now, our research area is about how multitasking with information technologies influence hedonic experience, especially in multisensory text context, through exploring how IT multitasking affects leisure and relaxation. The author argues that multitasking may hinder the immersive and pleasurable states achieved during hedonic activities such as listening to music, watching movies, or engagement in other leisure pursuits. What happens is that in multitasking, a researcher can do a number of activities. One, somebody may decide to listen to music while texting, or somebody can decide to play music while driving. So all this is multitasking. So perform different tasks at a go. So that's our research area. Then also the research problem or the gap. Most previous research has examined multitasking in a work-related or function topics, such as handling emails while completing office tasks. However, little was known about how multitasking affects hedonic activities, those centered on enjoyment and relaxation. The gap identified by the authors is that IT devices are frequently used during leisure. For example, texting while watching a movie, yet the consequences for hedonic experiences are not being deeply studied. Now, hedonic experience, I'll talk about activities that can affect the leisure or the free time of someone while doing some work. Now, the previous research, the other studies demonstrated that multitasking and performance and is linked to stress and anxiety. However, some research suggested multitasking can be beneficial in specific professional contexts such as IT enabled communication. For leisure activities, very limited research existed, creating a foundation for this study. So this was our basis, why we came up with this research. Now, our research objectives to assess whether IT multitasking reduces hedonic experience during multisensory activities. 2, to determine whether personality traits, in bracket, extraversion, neutralism, moderate this relationship. 3, to test whether multisensory features enhance hedonic experience compared to any sensory activities. So those are our research. Those were our research objectives. Then our methodology or the strategy. Which has conducted a laboratory experiment with 24 participants. In bracket, the millennials considered digital natives, where the design was a 2x2 within a subject experience, multisensory versus universal times multitasking versus multitasking. So the participants listened to music on high fidelity, vibro, kinetic chair, while either interacting or not interacting with a smartphone application. So this was our strategy on how we got the information on the research. Our results or the findings. The results reveal that multisensory hedonic activities significantly enhance positive emotions and sometimes reduce arousal compared to unnecessary activities. However, when IT multitasking was introduced, the positive effects diminished. Participants experienced lower pressure, and high arousal, indicating distraction and reduced relaxation. Personality played a role. Individuals high in extraversion or neuroticism were more negatively affected by IT multitasking. So the findings are that sometimes when you do a number of activities, you can either forego one and then perform the other. That was our research, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Richard.
Welcome, Doctor.
So that was a typical quantitative research done using the laboratory experiment. So
Yes.
each of these research articles was giving different perspective of how some of this research is done, the different inductive or deductive research approaches. So and I think they one of the things I like is that you really simplify it, because when you read it, sometimes reading quantitative research can be a bit daunting, but I like the way you've simplified it and really
Thank you.
summarized. So thank you for that.
You're
So
welcome, Doctor.
Any question from the group and the class in general? No, we don't have? Okay. So I think then we can stop our lecture here and allow everyone to go and relax. Then we meet tomorrow at 8.
Okay.
Okay.